The first thing is there has to be a clear alignment of interest. Both partners have to know why they want the JV. And remember that the two partners never want the JV for the same reason. Both of them want the JV to produce the same result for exactly opposite reasons, right? So we are not going into that, right? We are going into what makes a JV sustain and succeed. The second thing I've found to be very important, in fact, I would say the most important thing in a JV, is that the leaders of the two organizations that are forming a JV have to connect at the top, and they have to like each other. Okay? So I'm making a serious statement. I'm not making a professional statement here. I'm saying, so there's a JV between two ventures who create a joint venture. Those two ventures and their top dogs have to like each other and like to work with each other. It, to me, is one single most important criteria for a JV to succeed. Because if that works, many other things fall in line. Then on a more operational level, I think the composition of the board of the JV is very important. What kind of people are nominated to the board of a joint venture actually gives a message into both JV partners on what is the importance of that joint venture to the two parties, right? Because if a JV puts fairly senior, important people from the two parent companies into the JV as board members, directors, involved in its governance, the message going into the JV is that this JV is important to the parents, and the message filtering back into the two organizations that have formed the JV is, if this guy has to be on the board of that company must be important. Then the other thing I've noticed on JVs is that the exit criteria for a JV to be defined as well as it can be upfront in terms of events or timelines that will lead to a separation of ways or a buyout, one buying out the other buying the other one. I think having very clearly articulated, simple but articulated reflecting reality is a very important element when you form a JV. Because if you have that in place, then the partners don't worry so much about what happens if this happens and that happens. Because typically preparing for a dissolution of a JV is what ends to a lot of problems being created many years prior to when the end of the JV, logical end of a JV's life has come. So I've found that in any JV agreement, more attention should get paid to what happens in a dissolution. Because what you do when you come together is actually an alignment of strategies and purpose, right? That's simple. What else? I think one thing I've noticed is that if champions are nominated within the parent organizations to work towards a JV success, either those people being put on the board or sometimes people being seconded into a JV from the parents, those people have to let go of their safety nets in the parent company. I've found that makes a big difference. You know, it's very difficult for a person to say, oh, I will be the head of customer service for North America for my parent and also become the chief operating officer of this JV. Because then you're leaving safety nets. Especially in the initial phases of a JV, you can't have divided executive attention with safety nets where a guy says, if I do poorly in the JV, I still have a backup of a job and success there. You have to remove those safety nets. I have seen every time those safety nets were there was a challenge in performance. And finally, when you get into the JV, into the executive management of the JV, irrespective of where the people came from into the joint venture, the focus and the purpose and the driver of the executive management of the JV has to be maximize the purpose and the vision of the JV, and not continue to think of how does this impact one parent or the other. You can't really have feet and legs in two boats and say we'll cross the river together. So these are the kind of things experientially I've found make JVs work well, and in some cases don't work very well. I can talk a lot more with charts on, but to me these were things that I can think from my gut that what makes JV succeed and what makes a JV not so successful.